Hi guys, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the subject how you can get your security deposit back. And before we start, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys who watched our live feed last week, and we talked about how you could find a perfect rental property. And I've spoken to a lot of people, and I just wanted to thank you all for your kind words and your feedback, and that I just really appreciate it, because that allows for us to go through these subjects, because they all come from you guys, and we just want to make sure that you're well looked after and that you're getting all the right information so that you will find your way around the whole property industry. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the subject how to get your security deposit back when you're renting a property. We hear a lot of people struggling with this subject, and we're just going to go through a couple of really easy steps that should help you when you're either starting to rent or when you are ready to terminate your rent. So first and foremost, I wanted to thank Susan from South Africa, who we've spoken on the phone last week, and she said she was really struggling with this subject and just wasn't really sure what, in terms of what she was responsible for or what the agent was responsible for. So we went over this subject, and she was really able to understand and knew where she could get the information from. So thank you, Susan. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to have a chat with me. So before we go through this subject, and this is coming directly from Susan, right? She said to me, I'm not sure what's my responsibility and what my agent's responsibility is in regarding to the property. So let me explain the difference. So what is connected to the property? So the structure, the build of the property, the bricks, the stone, the piping, the plumbing, electrical work, the concrete, the floors, the walls, but also the kitchen, the tiling, the bathroom, any taps, the bath, all those sort of things. They are a part of the property, and they are owned by the owner of the property. In terms of what is your responsibility regarding to maintenance and what is the tenant's responsibility regarding to maintenance is, say for instance, your dishwasher would break. That would be part of the structure of the property, and that is part of the owner. So everything that is inside the property, that is for the tenant. So say for instance that you have a floor, there's a leak in the ceiling, the agent would then have to fix the leak, but all the damage that is inside, so say to the floor, that is then your responsibility. So I hope that sort of gives a bit of insight of what is your responsibility and what is the owner's responsibility. Okay, so the first step that I would like to talk to you about today is the entry condition report. And let me just explain to you what an entry condition report is. As soon as you get into a property, your agent or your landlord should do up a detailed report of what the property has, any damages, what is available in the property, how many cabinets does your kitchen have, every remark, every damage, every colors on the wall, those sorts of things should be in that report, because that report will be brought back up as soon as you're ready to leave the property. So there should be a starting point of that you can demonstrate what condition that you received that property in. So ask the agent for the report as soon as you move in. Are you going to do up a report? Have you already done up a report? What's actually in the report? They should always show you the report. Now, say that you're ready to move into a property and your agent or your landlord hasn't actually done up a report, then I would strongly urge you to do your own report. You could make a list of everything that's on the walls, colors on the walls, floors. Always note down the terms and conditions of your contract. If you see a flaw, that should really bring up a bell, because in Holland we don't usually have properties that already have flaws. So in that moment you should think, does that flaw belong to the property, or is it something that I have accepted and is now my responsibility? So these are really, really important things that are noted down that you should note down. So in that report, make sure there's a detailed list of everything that's in the property. Make sure the terms and conditions, either, is it yours, is it mine, how should I leave that property, and detailed photos. Now, what you could do is you could send it via email to your agent or to your landlord, because that could be a reference point when you vacate the property. Second thing is the pre-inspection report. So as soon as you've actually terminated your contract and you're ready to move out, there should be a pre-inspection, because there should be a standard of what you should leave the property when you're ready to move out, right? Because they cannot hold you accountable if they haven't set a standard. That should make sense. So if there was no entry condition report, at least the agent can come out and then check the property, see what state it is in, give you a detailed list of everything that you should action upon, and then as soon as you're ready to leave that property, then it's like a tick and flick list. You've done this, you've done this, you've done this. Yep, you're good to go. That pre-inspection report, not every agency does it. So if they haven't done it, how can they hold you accountable again for the standard that they haven't set? So make sure that you know exactly how you should leave that property. And if you don't know, ask them, what's the standard that is expected of me that I should leave that property in? Then always make sure clean. And in Holland, normal clean isn't clean. It should be thoroughly clean, right? Because we love it when it's clean. We love clean walls. Scuff marks should be removed. Even the side skirtings, make sure that you remove everything. Clean the windows, clean the floors. Make sure that kitchen is absolutely smick. It should be absolutely no grease whatsoever. If you've got an exhaust above your stove, make sure the panels come out, that you clean them really thoroughly. Everything that is not yours should be removed from the property. Go to your bathroom, make sure all the lime is gone. If there's any mold from the ceiling, make sure it's gone. If you have anything that's broken, make sure that you repair it, obviously. Yards, make sure that they are tidy, that they are looked after, that they're clean. If there's anything growing where it shouldn't grow, make sure that you remove it. If you have bins, make sure that they are empty. Now, this is another really, really good point that I heard from Susan. She said to me, I left my rubbish in the bins, and why should I get billed for something that is part of the council? I pay the council a fee. Why should I then receive a bill because I left my rubbish? And that's a fair point, right? I mean, but Dutch people are maybe a little bit different. We like it to be ready to be moved in. So always remove your rubbish. If your agent hasn't set the standard, they cannot hold you accountable if you haven't done it again. So this is really another point that you should look at. If they haven't told you to empty them, and if it's not listed anywhere, how can you know? Then the last point, the final inspection. So the final inspection is something that is done as soon as, the final date. So say, for instance, that you've rented until the 31st of October. On the 31st of October or on the 1st, it really depends on your agent. That's when the final inspection needs to be done, and that's always after the pre-inspection. At the pre-inspection, they set the standard, and inspection is when you hand in your keys. That's when that pre-inspection report comes back up. That's the standard that they've set, and at the end inspection, they will go through the property with you and then tick and flick everything that's on that list and make sure that you've done a good job. If there's any items that haven't been done correctly, your agent will talk to you or your landlord will talk to you. What they can't do is finish up that report and then later on, after they've ticked and flicked everything off that list, send you a bill of all the stuff that they found when you left. That's not fair, because and they cannot add new things to the list. Say, for instance, that they've marked off on the report, said, yep, you've done a good job, and then 2 weeks later you're billed because they found a hole in the wall. I'm just making stuff up as I'm going. because they can't bill you afterwards. Always when when they found things, they always should give you a reasonable amount of time to go back and to fix it. Now, a reasonable amount of time isn't 2 weeks. It isn't 1 week, but could be a day or 2 days. At least you should have that time to be able to go back to the property and fix the things that might be wrong with it. Now, Susan spoke to me on the phone last week about some things that they were billed for. She mentioned that there was a tap that wasn't functioning in the bathroom. They were actually invoiced for that. Now, that's part of the structure of the property, so you shouldn't receive a bill for that. They received a bill for a non-functioning dishwasher. Again, part of the structure of the property, part of what is, part of that property is from the owner. So if it doesn't work, if it should be fixed or it should be replaced, that's always a cost for the owner. So be mindful of that. Now, last and not least is when in doubt, always double check. Always keep in contact with your agent. Always ask them, what is the standard that you are going to hold me accountable for? Never ever assume, because it's not going to turn out right. It's always going to be a bit messy. So remember, again, they can't hold you accountable for the standard that they haven't set. So make sure that you understand the standard that you leave the property in. If you've taken over any items, always ask the agent, is there any items that I've taken over? Because they actually become your responsibility. Have you taken over a floor? Well, that means when you leave the property, you should take the floor or remove it, or maybe sell it to an ex-tenant if the possibility is there. Now, if you're renting a fully furnished property, that's obviously completely different. Then it's part of the property. Say, for instance, that you've accepted a property that has a black wall and you're like, yep, that's fine, I'm happy with that. That means that when you leave the property, that should be brought back into the original color. So make sure that you understand what that standard is. What is normal? What does it look like? What was it before? I mean, I've accepted it and it's now my responsibility, but I just want to make sure that I am doing what you are expecting me to do. So just some tips and tricks for all of you guys that are starting to rent. Make sure you document everything that you do. You never know what kind of agency that you have. And I mean, we're right on top of everything in regards to inspections. We do everything digital. Make sure we document everything with photos. You get a very detailed report. Other agents, I'm not sure. Everyone works in a different manner. And I'm just going to assume that we all do the best that we can. But you also want to make sure that there's no surprises. Surprises in renting are never good. So you document everything that you do. So when you move into the property, make sure if there is no entry condition report that you actually do one up yourself and email it. Always email, because then you have it in writing. So if everything goes wrong and you need to contact a lawyer afterwards, after you've moved out, because they've billed you 15,000 euros, and then you always have a starting point. This is the way that I received the property in. Actually, it has detailed photos. I've sent an email on that date and that time, so you can refer back to it. It's really, really important. And when you leave a property, it's expected that you leave it in the same state as you received it. Now, all the items that you've taken over is obviously something completely different. That's your responsibility, but always leave it in the way that you received it. Now, I am a very, very strong believer in adding value everywhere you go. And adding value doesn't mean that when you live into a property that you should put in a brand new kitchen, because the property isn't yours. You're just borrowing it, as you could state. But adding value is more in the way of make sure that you love it, that you look after it, and that you treat it as your own. And if a screw is loose, make sure that you tidy it. If the yard wasn't in the state that you would like it when you moved in, make sure that you leave a very tidy yard. Go the extra mile and make sure that you leave the property in a better way for the next tenant to move in. I mean, just think of living in a property, moving out, you're leaving it a little bit less than last time, and a little bit less. I just feel really bad for the last tenant that's going to live in that property. So always make sure that you add value to the things that you do. You know, make sure that if the kitchen wasn't all that tidy, that you leave it a little bit neater and a little bit more tidy. Now, the last thing that I'd like to mention is that we are an official partner of the Holland Expat Centre. They are a non-profit government organisation that help internationals just get around. So if you feel that you need information about any subject, about how to get around in Eindhoven, make sure that you contact them, and I will leave a link below in the comments. If you feel that I've left anything out and you're not getting the information that you need, make sure that you contact me. You can send me a message, you can call me, whatever you like. If you feel that there's anyone in your group of friends or family that might need to hear this, make sure that you tag them below, because we want to make sure that you get the right information out. All right, so next week, same time, same day, we're going to come with the next topic, and it's going to be completely different to renting. Next time, I'm going to explain the difference between a existing built property, if you want to purchase that, or a newly built project, because it's completely different cost, everything's different. So thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it, and leave some love below. Bye-bye.